Hello, colleagues. I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the syllabus with you for detection and remediation of early reading difficulties. This is primarily an online course that will be running for 7 weeks. Our course will launch on May 18th and continue through the final 7th week, launching through the week of June 29th. You'll notice in the syllabus that I've listed my contact information. I encourage you to reach out to me at any time to answer questions, review assignments, discuss, or we can collaborate around information that you've collected or data, or even just sort of the steps in walking through where you are with some of the projects that we will be engaging in. The course primarily will focus on you being able to really determine which assessments are appropriate for which situations for students. So really exploring different types of assessments, checklists, rubrics, learning pathways, trajectories, and really thinking about developmentally where students are at with their literacy development and setting goals for students and thinking through best research practices to meet their instructional needs. The required texts are listed in the syllabus, and if you look in the information section of Blackboard, you will also find some additional information regarding the text for this particular course. So the learning outcomes, we'll sort of have to differentiate this class for our time of basically working online with students. So I did post in the syllabus that this course was running during the time of quarantine during COVID-19, so that everyone will understand that this course may be a little bit different based on our parameters around the work that we can engage in with actual students. So you'll just see that listed in the syllabus itself. So I'm hoping that the learning outcomes for you at the end of this course will really be to think through specific programs for students, intervention strategies to support students, and really be able to use observation techniques and to be able to use assessment techniques to set goals, specific goals for students. So targeted goals that are small enough that students can meet within a certain amount of time so they make adequate or sometimes accelerated literacy progress. As educators, we'll be using this data in a really purposeful way to be able to collectively synthesize data for students in order to take a perspective around assessment that we're using a collection of data, not just one data point, to be able to make really informed decisions regarding what students need and next steps for students. So typically, we would really engage in collaborative conversations in our face-to-face meetings, but since this is an online course, we'll be using a discussion board to really help us to be able to engage with one another and think about those collaborative conversations. So it's important that you're really present during discussion board conversations. So one thing that's really important for all readers, writers, and learners is that we use our readings each week or our videos and be able to synthesize that information and be able to write about it and reflect about it and really think deeply about some of the ideas and concepts so that we can take our learning and then think about how it transfers to students. So sometimes some of the perspectives may be different than what you typically would consider engaging in your particular classroom, but I ask that you be really open because eventually there'll be a student that may really fit some of the ideas that you haven't used in the past, or that maybe it's something you have used in the past and are thinking really reaffirms things that you've been doing as an educator. One way that we will be collaborating and really using our thinking and the reflection process as educators is through our reading response learning log. So each week you'll be assigned videos or articles and assigned readings, and you'll use your reading response learning log as a way to capture those ideas. So in the past, students have created either 2 or 3 column notes, or they've organized their notes digitally and they've posted them on the discussion board. And from there, you'll be required to read other people's thinking around the ideas presented for each module week and sort of engage in a collaborative conversation like you would expect students to be able to do in your classroom, so that we deepen our understanding through those collaborative conversations. In addition to the reading learning logs, you'll be asked weekly to select a piece of literature, something that you really feel connected to. It can be a picture book, it can be a poem. You might take a screenshot of the cover and tell us a little bit about the author, or read a section of the text and talk about how you use it with students or how you use it in a small group, so that we have a collection of literature at the end of 7 weeks that we can add to build our capacity as educators and lovers of literature and literacy. Another task that I will ask you to engage in is an assessment share. So in the assessment share, you'll be expected to really research or really just think carefully about an assessment that you've either used in the past or an assessment that you would like to use for a specific purpose. And you'll be required to actually teach, you post a video teaching us about this particular assessment. So you'll want to think about basically a description of why we would choose this assessment, the pros and cons that you notice around the assessment, or you can look at the reviews. What do people say about this assessment? What's really good about it? What do they really like about it? Or what are the things that we really need to be careful about when we're using it? And the purpose and audience, some type of citation where you got it, so that in case other students in the class would also like to use this assessment, they'll know what publisher created it or where they can find it. And in that 10 to 12 minute video, you'll really be required to teach to us and post, and then your colleagues will respond back and give you some feedback around what they might use the assessment for, whether they find a connection with that particular assessment or not. So the purpose of this assignment is really to help us to be able to have a collection of assessments sort of that we could add to a diagnostic kit moving forward, so that we have various assessments that we can choose from when we're engaging with students. Moving forward, you'll also be required to create a diagnostic kit. So you'll have a collection of assessments in each area of literacy, so that you can use this toolkit or resource moving forward in your classroom or with students in the future. Your kit can include resources that I've shared in Blackboard or in our classroom conversations, or assessments that your peers have shared in the classroom. So at the end of the course, you'll have either a digital presentation or some type of way to present the assessments that you plan to use in your kit. And it will cover all of the areas of literacy: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, sight word building, and of course, comprehension. One of the assignments that has always been a foundational assignment in this course is the development of a case study. And so in this course, you will learn how to format a case study and write a little bit of a background around a student, and engage in sort of an interview process, thinking about, how motivated is your student? What does your student like to read or write? And then you will engage with that student to really be able to dig deeply using different assessment techniques to be able to find the student's strengths or weaknesses in literacy. So if we were in different circumstances, this would really be quite an easy assignment. So you would be able to take the assessments that we discuss in class, and you would be able to engage with the student over multiple times and settings to be able to really have a collection of multiple data points to be able to set some goals for that student and recommend some instructional strategies that you feel would meet the needs of this student so they could make some accelerated progress in literacy. In our current circumstances, you may have to be very creative in how we're going to address creating the case study, since this is a core assessment or the foundational place within the trajectory of the master's degree work that we engage with this type of work. We may have to use some data that I post and we sort of use that to create a case study, or we may engage in setting up some type of steps or action plans so that you find a student and have parent permission and really sort of work with that student in a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet so that you can have conversations with the student. It won't be quite as effective because you'll be limited in what you'll be able to observe with the student and how they're engaging with the literature and the literacy assessments. So we'll be creative with this, and we'll just try to get it to work to the best of our ability. I do have some samples and exemplars that I will share with you so that you really feel supported moving across this particular assignment. Working with your student, you will select an intervention strategy or a strategy to teach or one particular lesson that you feel like would be appropriate with your student, or it could be a strategy that you're interested in teaching, and you will create a video for us and demonstrate this strategy. So it could be that we're sort of your audience and we pause the video and sort of, we're the pretend students, or it can be something that you actually record a Zoom meeting conversation with your student where you try out this strategy and sort of do some online teaching with them, and you really discuss the lesson with us and the strategies and the purpose for this work, noting why this particular student needs this instruction. So there are other details in the syllabus that you'll want to read through, but in essence, I'll clarify any information or questions that you have when we meet on our first Zoom meeting, but I wanted to provide this as a scaffold moving forward. I look forward to learning with you.